Down at the Crocus nursery, we're setting out the major trees and shrubs for Tommaso and his team to have a last-minute look before we start building the garden at the Chelsea Flower Show. The trees have come from Germany, and the nursery team are doing last-minute inspections for any damage they may have incurred during transport. The trees are about 30 years old and need to be handled with extreme care. Tommaso has chosen to use a bay hedge for the Daily Telegraph garden. Each plant is set out and numbered, so we know exactly where it is to go at the show. His citrus plants are tucked up in one of the frost-free polytunnels because there's a possibility of some cold nights forecasted and we can't risk any damage. Tommaso, Harriet, Paul and Peter discuss some last-minute changes to the design. The advantage of doing this before the show is really significant. We're under no pressure at the moment. It's a completely different story when we get to the showground. So we spent the day tweaking the design until Tommaso and Paul were completely happy.
So has anything changed in the way you've positioned these various elements?
Yes, it has, and we are still looking at different options. It's very different looking at the plants in the flesh rather than looking at the plan of the garden on paper, because obviously the relation between the textures of the different plants and the relation between the height and the spread, the whole thing has to work, has to hang together as well as possible, and it's a little bit like placing sculpture. You have to make sure that everything has its right place and looks in harmony with the other plants around it.
Part of these sculptures are filaria, which has not often been used at Chelsea. Tell me a bit about why you've used filaria.
Well, filaria is a little bit of a staple in Italy. It's a plant which is much more widely used, but it grows very well in the UK as well. But we wanted to experiment with that, and it can be used, it can be clipped to form very tight and very good quality topiaries. And as the garden has an Italian team, we were very keen to introduce it into our project.
And has this process helped settle in your mind how the garden is going to look?
Well, it has greatly, and we have changed a couple of things this morning. And in a way, you know, it's very, very important that we go through this process before we arrive on site at the flower show, and this has really enabled us to visualize how the garden is going to look and to make sure that we are fully prepared and fully ready to place everything once everything is delivered to site.